It is time for Drop the Dime at 9. Top stories of the day. Welcome to Drop the Dime at 9. And what's trending right now is Dee Snyder. As you know, Dee Snyder does not hold any punches. He always comes out and says what he feels. One thing I respect the guy a lot about. Can't ever put the guy down because he stood up for us, us metal fans, back in the court in front of all them people that were trying to bring us down. So I respect a lot of opinion from Dee Snyder. So what got Dee upset this recently on his radio show is someone called in stating that he was never a true, a true metal guy because he didn't party and do, and be in the news like getting in trouble and all. Like he said, and the guy said, "Oh, really?" And Dee Snyder said, "Really? So I had to be? So you're saying I had to be on drugs and being an asshole to be considered a metal guy? Stuff like that." So, but the biggest mistake was the dude during the phone call brought up Motley Crue, which was a big mistake to Dee, because Dee said, "Okay, so you're going to compare me." You're going to compare the lead singers, okay? So you're going to compare me to Vince Neil, a murderer that shouldn't have never even been on tour or ever got to complete what he just completed with his band because he should be in jail, okay? And you're going to compare me to somebody like that. So Dee doesn't hold any punches. So here's a story on it. He recently spoke about the phone call, and he spoke about how the fans in the 1980s were discouraged by the fact that he was a rock star that liked to rock but didn't party. Therefore, many people turned to other bands like Motley Crue. So this is where Dee starts to really get his opinion out. Snyder says Motley Crue singer Vince Neil could go literally kill someone in a car accident because he was stone-ass drunk. There were two other women who were in a van which the car hit that were permanently crippled from the famous car accident that killed Razzle from Hanoi. How do you say that? Hanoi rocks. And people are cool with that. They're like, yeah, all right, well, it's rock and roll. That's just stupid for them to say that. And the guy didn't go do any serious jail time at all. And I was just like, really? This guy's a murderer, and he doesn't do any jail time at all for what he doesn't pay for any, of what he just did. He killed someone because of his stupid thing that he did, and he crippled two other people. And this guy serves no jail time. So Dee says. So here's a story. In case I know everybody should know the story, but back in December of 1984, Vince Neil smashed his car into another vehicle in Redondo Beach, California, killing one of his best friends, drummer Nicholas Razzle Dingley, and seriously injured two other people. Neil was charged with vehicle manslaughter and driving under the influence of alcohol. His blood alcohol level was over the legal limit at 0.12. So, but here's the thing. This was literally 3 blocks away from the apartment they were having the party. They had an apartment above the Whiskey Go-Go. They ran out of beer, ran out of liquor. So, what's the best thing to do? Let's vote for it. Let's get the guy who's one of the most drunk at the party to get into a sports car.
You know people that can do that?
Yeah, 3 blocks away they could have walked.
Yeah,
lazy assholes. So, all right, so they get into the car, okay, and they drive 3 blocks to the beer distributor. Well, on the way, Vince decides he's drunk out of his mind. So what does he know? He decides he wants to get there quickly and back. So he decides to floor it down the strip and a couple blocks away where the accident occurred. Okay. Neil served half of his 30-day.
So he served 15 days, 2 weeks.
He served 2 weeks. He served 15 days of a 30-day sentence. Now he only got a 30-day sentence.
And I'm sure he wasn't, doing max, time in Gen Pop or anything.
No, not at all. But he received 5 years of probation and had to pay $2.6 million in restitution, as well as perform 200 hours of community service. I'd like to know if he actually performed that, because he was on a tour a lot and doing a lot.
Maybe that's his community service.
But the only thing that hurt, the only thing I could say out of this charge that hurt Vince was the pocketbook, obviously, because he wasn't making the big bucks yet. He wasn't making the major, this was 1984, which was basically a year after Shout the Devil came out. So they were still opening band for Ozzy. They weren't even that big yet.
You got to wonder, too, that people missed not to be gross, but a huge payday, too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
I mean, I'm sure they got almost nothing because he's he's a musician. What's he?
Yeah,
money.
Right. But back in 2006, guitarist of Hanoi Rocks, Andy McCoy, said in an interview, "I was there. What happened was Razzle disappeared. So did Vince. So me and T-Bone, which is he used to call Tommy Lee, because Tommy's very skinny, so that's why they called him T-Bone. So what happened was they took his car and they went looking for them. We drove past this accident, and I was like, wait a minute, I just passed by the car. Isn't that the same color car Vince has?" And then, as they were passing the accident, they see Razzle's sneaker. He had Chucks.
Jesus.
And one of his Chucks were in the middle of the road. And he goes, "That's Razzle's sneakers." And they pulled over, and that's when they found out of the tragedy. Jeez. And then Vince Neil was sitting on a curb with his hands, his head in his hands. And there was another vehicle smashed up, people getting put in ambulances and taken away. And, out of the guy who caused all this, barely had a scratch.
That's what always happens when people are shit-faced drunk, get into an accident. They're able to walk away with hardly a scratch on them.
Right.
Everybody else is either seriously injured or killed.
Right. So Dee Snyder's like, "Oh wow, I suck so bad because I did not kill somebody in a car accident being drunk. I guess it would have made me a real rock star." So you know what, Dee, all these years, like I said, Dee has never said. I'm sure it bothered him. But I never heard Dee say anything about this until some idiot, comes on and tells him he's not cool because he didn't party like the guys in Motley Crue. Yeah, I mean, that was really cool. This guy, killed somebody and paralyzed other people. And then you had a bassist that you should shoot up heroin. Yeah, that's a good influence.
Why not?
Yeah, that's rock and roll. No, it's not rock and roll. I mean, the sex, drugs, rock and roll is a bunch of bullshit. Okay, take the sex and the drugs out of it. It's the music, man. That's all it counts.
Can we leave some of the sex in it?
Yeah, of course you can leave some of the sex in it. But you know what? It's so the sex thing was so over. When I used to watch the interview, when I watched Behind the Music, when they start talking about the drug use and the sex parties, I'd be like, I was so bored with it. I'm like, you know what? They came on there and they start trying to be cool, saying, "Oh, these girls." I got news for you. They're a bunch of whores and sluts that would sleep with any musician, rock star guy. They're not women, okay?
After my
just
fourth
a
or
bunch
fifth
of
orgy,
sluts.
I was done.
Right. So what's
It's
that?
boring after a while.
What's there to
just wanna go to
brag
sleep.
about? What's there to brag about?
Just want to go to sleep.
You know what I mean? And one of the guys that was on there, Stephen Piercy. Okay, you saw.
Don't mention his name.
Okay,
please.
ladies, you saw Stephen Piercy, not what you call a sex symbol in the metal community. And he was to brag about all the women he had. Now, come on, women are being with him, then they're just a bunch of pigs. They're doing it for the image part of it. He's the rock
They're
star.
trying to get to somebody else.
Yeah, and that kind of thing. But you know what? I stand by. Like I said, I like Motley Crue, and like I said, the first couple albums of Motley Crue. And Licky Six, I respect him as a songwriter. I don't respect his lifestyle or how he lived it. I read the Heroin Diaries, like, dude, seriously effed up. But I'm talking about the music part of it. They were good for the first couple albums, and a couple songs here and there after that. But Dee, I gotta agree with Dee. Just because Dee didn't party and do drugs and stuff like that, he's not a rock star. It's ridiculous. It's totally ridiculous. And, so Dee got pretty upset. And that's what's trending going on right now. It's trending all over social media. And, that would have been a cool debate to talk about. But really, is there a debate in that? No, not in my eyes.
That's just some troll trying to piss him off.
Yeah. there's really no debate in it. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people, in the human being side of all of us, we feel Vince was wrong and he should have served time.
Yeah, more than 15 days.
But also there's our Motley Crue fans in us that glad that they carried on the legacy they carried on. But you know what? And Michael Sweet, like him, don't like him, whatever. I know he's in the religious band, whatever, and he's always going to say the right thing. But what he said about it was pretty fair. He said, Vince got away with serving serious time, and you can't blame Vince. You got to blame the Justice Department on that, pretty much. But you know what? He said he has to pay a price, even though he's not sitting behind a jail cell. He's got to live with the guilt and pain of that every day.
Yeah.
Okay, and he lost a daughter, a 5-year-old daughter, to cancer. So the guy's going through pain and agony. So it's not like he hasn't served any kind of agony or pain over it. And he's got to live with that guilt every day of what he did in 1984. So it's not like he's getting away, stone cold on this. He's still got to pay for it. You know what I mean?
Still would have nice if LAPD had beaten him up a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
Hello, thanks for calling Shakeman Show. Who's calling? Where are you from?
Hey, this is Dirty Rocker Boy calling from the Great Gulf Coast. I got an opinion about Dee Snyder and all of this.
Dirty Rocker Boy. What's up, brother? How you been?
I'm doing great.
We haven't talked to you in a few weeks.
Yeah, last week, a couple weeks before my birthday. Week before my birthday.
Yes.
Okay, here it is. Here's my thought on this.
Okay.
There's several layers here. First, you can't put too much on Vince because of how much time he served. Drunk driving just wasn't taken seriously back then.
Right.
That's 15 days. That's more than a lot of people served for drunk driving back in the day. So I can't put that on Vince. Like you said, that's the justice system.
Well, he did kill somebody, though.
Vehicular homicide.
Vehicular homicide is pretty serious.
Yeah, it is. But back then, it really wasn't. I mean, it was, but it wasn't taken seriously by our courts.
Yeah, unfortunately.
It just wasn't.
But seriously,
it was coming out in the 70s where everybody was on everything. So,
But the bottom,
there's that.
But the bottom line, Vince got off because of who he was.
Yeah, somewhat. I mean, like I said, everybody was getting off on it. It just wasn't taken that seriously. But my issue is with Dee Snyder also on this for not owning a little bit. I mean, for him to say, oh, well, the 80s rock fans rejected us because we weren't on drugs. I speak for just me on this, but I rejected Twisted Sister because they came off like a freaking cartoon. And it was like watching Looney Tunes watching their videos.
Yeah, that was part of their image, though. I mean, that was the image they were portraying, really. They wanted to kind of be a goof a little bit.
Yeah, if you want to do metal for 8-year-old kids who have no more maturity level than Bugs Bunny, then that's great. But I was a little older than that and beyond that. But see, it's so easy. He doesn't even need to go into all that. The big thing, if Dee wants to take Vince down a notch or two, all Dee has to do is come out there on his radio show and say, "Hey, I can remember my lyrics."
Yeah.
Nice.
But
challenge.
Something Vince has never been able to do.
But you got to look at his side of this. He didn't just come on his radio show and just like blurt it out. He was called out on it and he responded. You know what I mean? So he was just responding to a statement saying he wasn't cool because he wasn't like his band wasn't like Motley Crue. So he had to defend it. Maybe he took it a little too far, or maybe he didn't. I don't know, but he had to respond to this caller calling him out on it.
Well, I mean, that's just the thing. Though, is I don't think that anybody found them to be uncool because they didn't party. The people who found them to be uncool just found them to be juvenile and sophomoric. I mean, I never was aware that they didn't party.
I don't think we can be down with that.
I didn't really pay attention to how much people were partying
I didn't pay attention to how much people were partying.
That had nothing to do with my decisions on whether I liked the band or not. And I think it's kind of messed up for him to just, oh, well, that's the reason why, because everybody back then was messed up and everybody was wanting to party, and that's why people didn't like us. No. The people who didn't like you because of your product.
Well, yeah, I mean, I hear what you're saying. But he's if you listen to the what he's saying here, he's not really talking about or comparing the music of Motley Crue compared to Twisted Sister. He's talking about the image, actually, because he was called out on the image, not so much the music. He was called out on the image, saying that like I said, the Motley Crue is a bunch of party animals and party guys, and they're cooler and they're more rock stars than you because you didn't party. Like I said, sex, drugs, rock and roll has always been the theme of rock and roll music. It's always it goes back even in the '60s, man. It goes way back. Sex, drugs, and rock and roll. I mean, especially '60s and '70s with the drugs.
Dude, Eddie Fisher.
Yeah, right.
It goes back to Hank Williams.
Yeah, I mean, drugs has always been around, and the sex part of it. Like I said, I seen the behind the musics on these bands, and they blow things. What pissed me off about? I want to sit here. I want to hear the story of how they got signed. I want to hear the story of how their music was recognized. I don't want to sit listen to it behind the music and watch it behind the music and hear about your drug addiction, and all the chicks that you laid. Who cares? I want to hear about how your band made it.
That to me, when you mentioned that about how the women were, that brings me back. It brought back memories of decline of the Western civilization in the metal years, and seeing the guy ride along in the car going, if this chick's going to be with you, you can figure she's probably been with everybody else.
Exactly.
Why would you really want to? Because that's pretty much conquered territory. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm with you on that one.
Yeah, I mean, what upset me about the behind the music is they bragged. They bragged about their drug addiction and their sex stories. It's like they're bragging. I was a drug addict. I'm bragging about it. It's ridiculous. It's like, just tell your story about how your band got signed. Tell us, like maybe a record label dropped you, and that's all I want to hear about. I want to hear about your sex parties and your drug use. It's like
best show, your worst show.
Boring. It's ridiculous.
That's why I always watch VH1 classic albums instead of VH1 behind the music, because it's the classic albums is about the music. Yeah,
right. They talk specifically about the music and about the album. Yeah, I agree with you on that one, definitely. Because there was a lot of bad behind the music.
It's kind of scary to watch it and have them dissect the music and hear what the different parts of it sound like before it all gets made into a whole. But
yeah, and like I said, for Nikki Sixx to put out a whole book about his journey through his heroin addiction, and if you read this book, I can't believe that you would even put a book out about yourself. Dude was gone, man. You know what I mean? And
have you ever listened to his radio show?
No, I haven't. I don't have no interest in doing it either.
A dork.
Yeah. Oh, I've heard. I haven't.
Just to listen to him talk, he is just the dorkiest individual you will ever hear.
You know what? I was wrong. I did listen to about a minute segment he had. Isn't he on there with some chick?
Yeah, he's got a Jen too.
Yeah, he's got a Jen too. He's trying
to rip you off, man.
Yeah, he's trying to rip me off. I got a Jen, and I had Jen probably before he did.
Oh, well before.
Yeah. So, yeah, I heard a minute of his... Yeah, he's not what you call a good radio DJ. Dee, I have to give Dee credit. He's pretty good on the radio.
I haven't heard Dee in years and years, so I can't even really recall what he was like. But
House of Hair shows.
I mean, I'm not going to say he's not entertaining, but he comes off like such a nerd.
You got your opinion. That's good.
And then
cool.
if you look back at high school pictures of him, it's not at all surprising.
Yeah, you're right. Why we got you on the line, dude? Did you listen to the show earlier about the great debate we had about Metallica?
I did not hear that. I just came in during the Twisted Sister, right as you were starting the Twisted Sister.
Oh, okay. Well, our great debate tonight is we're talking about Metallica back in the early '90s when they came out with the Load album. From the Load album on. The question is, do you feel a lot of metal fans and a lot of Metallica fans felt they were that the Metallica sold out to them, and because they changed their image, their look, their music kind of got softer. How do you feel about it? Do you feel that Metallica sold out?
If I was going to say Metallica sold out, I would say it happened when they made a video for One, because they said they'd never ever make videos. Because
You're right.
Videos selling out.
There you go. That's right. And I said that.
By their own words.
Right. Exactly.
So if there was a time they sold out, it was when they sat down and filmed One.
Wow, I never even thought of that, Troy. That's a good point
That's
right
what
there.
They do though. They've done it. So I mean, Hetfield especially does it all the time.
Yeah, he always
says something and then like
always
20
contradicts
minutes
himself.
later.
I can't knock anybody when their music changes styles. I mean, musicians progress. They learn new things. They're exposed to new things. Of course, their music's going to progress. If you listen to 1971 Led Zeppelin, it sounds nothing like 1977 Led Zeppelin.
True. Good point.
No, it sounds like Spirit.
There you go. A bunch of other people.
Yeah, I see. I don't have a problem with the band experimenting with their music and changing a little bit, because they want to try something new and they want to experiment a little bit. But
as long as they don't pull a Kiss and put out music from the Elder, I can probably deal with it.
One of the worst albums ever. No, but yeah, I agree with you on that. But like I said, I felt like everything that they stood up for, everything that they used to put other people down for, I kind of think like they put their own foots in their mouth. I mean, they turned the image that they changed was everything they stood up for and said that they would never do. They contradicted themselves. They're hypocrites in my mind. So to me, I felt like they did sell out. You know what I mean? For that fact.
Yeah, like I said, to me, it was way before any of way before the Black Album.
Yeah.
You know, that's when I first started hearing it. Oh, Metallica sold out when they recorded the Black Album, because a lot of that was more melodic and not as hardcore.
Right.
But to me, it was before that, because of the things that they had said.
Right. Yeah, you're right. You brought some very good points tonight, and that's points that we, and that's just it. I said that same thing. What Hetfield said back in the early to mid '80s, he said we will never put a video out like these other bands do to get publicity or whatever. And then I got to admit, it was a great album. It was a good album. But when and it's actually a really cool video. But you're right. That's where it all started, because they went against what they said. They put a video out for One, which was a very good video, very good song, very good album. But you're right. They contradicted themselves right there. And that was only a few years later after that statement.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right,
So,
man.
Yeah.
You're right. All right, Troy, thanks for calling, dude. Very, very good phone call, man.
All right, guys. Keep up the good work.
You got it, buddy. Thanks for listening, man.
Bye-bye.
See ya. There he is, Dirty Rocker Boy.
Surprised you didn't say get some new batteries.
Yeah, get some new batteries over there. All right, before we get on to our next music block, let me go into the booth where Jen sits.
Why?
Because I have to ask you about this. Because
why?
you probably, out of all of us that are sitting in this room, are probably the biggest Motley Crue fan.
I was going to say the only Vince Neil fan.
Well, yeah, I would say that. But I would say probably the biggest Motley Crue fan, because you stuck by them, even with their crappy albums they put out and all that.
Yes.
So how do you feel about that? I mean, you being a Vince lover, how do you feel about this? You got to have some kind of feeling on it.
I think Dee jumped too far. Really, it's none of anyone's opinion matters at this point. How much time you think Vince should have served, or if the fact that even compared to Dee Snyder, you can't do that.
But he was called out. He had to.
No, I understand. He had to respond,
right?
But he didn't have to keep going.
Well, he didn't really. That's basically all he said. Dee, in my opinion, he had to defend himself. He was called out, and he was, and if I was sitting there and I stayed clean for all these years and I put out, maybe Twisted Sister wasn't one of the top metal bands of all time. You know what I mean?
But there were so many other examples. He could have pulled out instead of the death of Razzle.
Yeah.
He didn't have to bring it up. No, he decided to bring up the fact that, Vince is a human being and he's an idiot and made a mistake.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Like, the point he was trying to make was, and you know what? He probably would not have even mentioned Motley Crue. He would have probably just said all the musicians in general that use drugs and all that stuff. He probably would have just used them. But this caller came right out, specified Motley Crue. And that's why.
But how many things have Motley Crue as a band done that's been wrong?
A lot. So you're saying.
Why'd you just pick that aspect that the man had killed somebody in an accident?
Because he killed someone.
It's probably the worst thing he could think.
They can, you know what? If they party and they wreck a hotel room with one.
But he's a human being. How many people have died in drunk driving accidents?
A lot.
It's innumerable.
But why? But why? Because he's a rock star. Why would he? If it was anyone else, they'd be in jail.
No, anybody out in California would have gotten off.
Yeah. Especially back then.
You think so?
Yeah,
yes.
Back then, yeah,
anybody.
Okay. All right. Well, I didn't know how bad the laws were back then. I guess it wasn't that.
It wasn't the fact that they were bad. They just weren't observed as hardcore as they are now.
Yeah.
Now it's just like the least little thing. Oh, you're 0.01 over.
You're going to jail for a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're taking your license and you're going to jail for a year.
But I'm sure the record company that had Motley Crue went, oh, no. We just signed them. He's got to stay out of jail.
Well, that's what was all. If you had the right manager back then, they're like your lawyer. They go in and get the charges dropped.
How much will this cost to keep him out of jail? Basically.
Well, you know what? That's a good question because Motley Crue didn't have their money yet.
And what's his?
But the record
service?
company did.
Yes.
And they had an investment in Motley Crue.
Yes.
They said, we need these people out and doing what they need to do to give us our money.
Yeah. Now, what's his name? Doc McGee, whatever his name.
Doc McGee.
He's managed. I mean, he might have been their manager at the time. You know how much trouble that he's gotten his artist out of? He would go, let me take care of it.
Incredible.
Let me take care of it. He'll go to the county's office and whatever they got charged for something they did on stage. He'll go and he'll straighten it out and bang, they're right off to the next city.
Nicky got snagged in Russia for mooning the crowd.
Yeah.
Tommy got snagged in Russia for mooning the crowd. And Nicky got snagged with heroin in his bag. None of them served time.
Right.
Well, they could also sign a bunch of stuff and give it away for a couple of, money.
Yeah.
They could do a lot of stuff for community service that, brings in a lot of cash.
Yeah, true. Yeah, that's true. But yeah, like I said, I understand that. I understand all that. But rock stars. I don't care what your name is, how famous you are. You are just like anyone else. You shit and piss like me. You're no different than what I am. You make more money than I am, and maybe you're on TV. But you know what? If you commit a crime, you serve the time just like everybody else does. That's my opinion. Okay, the laws might have sucked back then, and Vince got okay. It's a long time ago.
Yeah, because I think if he did it now, he'd be done.
Oh, yeah. And like I said, what I have to somewhat I agree with Dee Snyder to what he defended himself, and he said he's proud, and he's got something to be proud of. He stayed clean all these years. He didn't have to be an alcoholic or a drug addict to be a rock star. Okay, I agree with him on that point of it. So that's done with Dee Snyder. Now, Michael Sweet, I like what he said, where he said, even though Vince didn't serve time and get, he said, blame the system. Don't blame Vince. You know what I mean? Blame the system that didn't put him away or whatever like that. But they said Vince has to live with that, on his mind and every day.
Because that was his friend, too.
It was his best friend. And he has to live with that pain every day. And then he's
that
also
itself is a sentence.
Yeah, so the guy's gone through pain and suffering. He lost a 5-year-old child to cancer. I mean, that's something nobody wants to go through. So the guy's gone through pain and misery. So it's not like he hasn't, he's not living he's not
behind bars.
He did live the life. He lived the life that we all dreamed of having. But but he
Can
also
I have somebody else's. I don't want his.
But but he also has to wake up every day knowing. That's something that happened in his past.
Him and his friend went out drunk driving, and he killed his friend.
Right. Yeah. And crippled 2 other people.
And I don't even think that's what Dee was talking about. I think he was going after him so much as just saying...
He did. I mean, if you look at the article, he doesn't go on and on. He basically just says he brought that... The only reason why he brought Motley Crue into it because the person brought Motley Crue into it.
Like,
that was the only reason. I don't think... Like I said, if Dee had an opinion about this, it would have been out a long time ago.
Yeah, he never said... He just... I think it's just...
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're making more of a discussion about it than he did.
Right.
He just said it, like, get off my back. Look what this guy did, and
you're
comparing me to him.
Yeah, he didn't intend it as a direct personal attack at Vince.
No, he really didn't. But if the person's going to bring that person up and put them in their face, you're going to have to defend it, and unfortunately, Vince is going to get the, yeah, because
that's okay. He's soft. He can take it.
So, Well, yeah, I mean, it's something that we have to put aside, You know, us being true fans of bands and loving this music, we have to put certain things aside. I mean, how do you think I felt when Rob Halford came out of the closet? Here he is, metal god, like the best, one of the greatest rock singers of all time. My friend said, you're crazy. You never got it? You never saw with the leather and the chain? I'm like, no, because every freaking musician wears leather and chains and all that.
Yes, but he wore special stuff.
Yeah, but I didn't get it. I never looked at him that way.
And none of the songs were written about any girls.
Yeah, all of a sudden, Love Until the Morning.
They were,
but they weren't.
Well, they weren't written so much about girls.
No, they weren't.
There was some that was.
No.
There was some.
What?
There was some pre.
What one?
If you go a little bit more into the commercial stuff, the Turbo Lover album.
You sure that's about a girl?
Yeah, well, there's one.
Can you not do this, Tim, please?
I'm not sure if it's about a girl, but it's about another person. Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
But like I said, I don't.
Shakers.
I'm not going to get in on the gay thing. I already gave my opinion about that a long time ago. But I had to put that aside because Rob Halford is one of my favorite vocalists, and I'm going to look at him as one of my favorite vocalists in the lead singer Judas Priest. That's the way I have to look at it. I got to put the other feelings I have about that aside and enjoy Judas Priest's music. That's the only thing I can do.
It's not the soundtrack to the fantasy you had before.
No. Wow. No, not exactly. and then when I hear Hell Bent for Leather now, I kind of
Love Until the Morning.
Listen to it a little more. Yeah. I listen to it a little differently now than I did back in the '80s. So yeah. But anyway. So that's what's trending. That's the big story of the day. That's been pretty much going all over social media, which doesn't take long for anything to get around on there. But yeah, so there you have it, man. Thanks for your opinion there, Dirty Rocker Boy. Brought up some really good points.